DreAllDay.com.
Now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you're expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves all of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. We put all this together in one bundle, one package, one mindset, one method, one philosophy, one book, one show. This masterclass right here that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. Today's topic is playing the gamble of life. Now, this topic is specifically inspired by a book that I recently read called Thinking in Bets, written by a former professional poker player turned consultant and thought leader by the name of Annie Duke. And those of you who are TV watchers, reality TV watchers, you may remember Annie from nearly winning Celebrity Apprentice back in the day. I remember, that's where I remembered her from, but I hadn't heard her name for a while until I heard her pop up on a couple of podcasts around the time that she was promoting her book, Thinking in Bets, which came out maybe 2018, 2019. I didn't get around to reading it until the summer of 2020, but I did read it. And in this book, she's explaining how life is all about decisions that we have to make that usually do not come with guaranteed results. We know the only place that guarantees come before effort, or come before work rather, is in the dictionary. So sometimes in life, without a guarantee, actually many times in life, without a guarantee, we got to put some work in, we got to put some time in, we had to make investments, like I talked about in masterclass 609, the 5 forms of investment. And since we are making bets usually, we don't usually say, all right, this is absolutely going to happen. If I do this, this is guaranteed to happen. What we most of the time are doing unconsciously is playing the odds based on our best knowledge, based on the best things, the best information that we have about what is going to result from certain actions. We go ahead and do it. For example, you join the gym and you pay $50 a month and you go to the gym and work out every single day and sweat and get tired and all of that, because you believe that you'll live longer, you'll have a healthier body, you'll look better, you'll be able to play with your kids 20, 15 years from now. But we don't know, it's not guaranteed that that's gonna happen, but we make the bet with our best knowledge and using our own best judgment that that's gonna happen. So it got me to thinking about how all of these things, these bets that we make consistently in life, how it applies even if you don't play poker. Like, I don't play poker, and here we are. Even though I will say that I did take a stab at talking about the poker game of life in masterclass number 899. So even I need to go back and listen to that to see how close I got to understanding just the simple concepts and principles of how poker works and how you can apply it to life. I think I got it pretty right there, but I had to go back and listen to it myself before I talk about it anymore. But anyway, today's topic is playing the gamble of life. And this one, I know about the gamble of life a lot more than I know about the gambling of poker. But either way, that masterclass was great. This is going to be great. So let's buckle up and get into it. Point number 1, the topic once again, is playing the gamble of life. First thing, you are making best judgment decisions. And the way that you make best judgment decisions is to have your decisions aided by having a framework in place for making those judgments. We have a framework in place for every decision that you're making. All you had to do is run your decisions through the framework. Okay. Here's question number 1, question number 2, question number 3. It's kind of like a decision tree that you set up. When the framework is there, then you know how you can make your decisions, you know what actions you can take, and you know that you're using your best judgment because the framework is guiding you. So poker players, for example, I would assume, and if we got any poker players listening to this, you can check me on what I'm saying here. And again, this is aided by Annie Duke's book. Poker players reasonably know the odds when they're playing a hand. You get a hand, you reasonably know the odds of what you're playing, even though you don't have 100% of the information, right? Because you can't see all your opponent's cards. You only know the cards that you have. Or even if you don't know the odds, at least you want to know the odds. So that's the aim, right? You eventually want to know the odds as well as you can, and that's why you study and practice and do the things that you do to get better. So what a poker player would do, at least one who's trying to win, you would make the right bets, quote unquote, the right bets, and you're okay even when you lose, as long as you know you played it properly, right? As long as you know you played this hand properly based on the odds, based on the knowledge that you have of the game, based on your best judgment, again, knowing through your experience, through studying other poker players, through talking to fellow players, you know when you have made the right bet. So if you make the right bet based on the odds, using your best judgment, and still lose, You're all right with that because you know you did the wrong thing. And according to Annie Duke, the pro poker player or former pro poker player, she says that poker players will go over their previous games with fellow professionals and look for where they may have made bad decisions that won anyway, and where they made good decisions that lost anyway. And this is the same thing that happens in life. Sometimes in life, you make a good decision based on your best judgment, but you still end up losing in that situation because you can't control everything. Again, because if everything was guaranteed, we wouldn't need human beings. We'd all just be automatons and robots, and the whole world be controlled by AI. Even though a lot of our worlds are being controlled by AI, we don't even realize it. But the point being, a fellow poker player or poker players period will go over their previous games and talk to other players and figure out, all right, did I make the right decision here given the information that I had, which is not all the information, it's a limited amount of information, but given the odds, did I use the smartest judgment here or did I miss something? Is there something that I overlooked here? I ended up winning anyway, but did I play this the wrong way? And a fellow pro who can see what you can't see, they'll be able to point that out to you. Or a coach or whoever it is that can help you get better at poker when you're a poker player. Again, I'm not a poker player, so I can't tell you. And you could also say, hey, where did I make a good decision that ended up losing anyway? So I ended up losing that hand and losing that pot, or maybe I busted out of the tournament, but I made all the right decisions and it was just the wrong hands. I just had the wrong cards and things just didn't go my way, even though I played the bets the right way. It's the same way in life, ladies and gentlemen. You can do everything right sometimes and lose. You can do everything wrong sometimes and win. So do not be fooled by luck that skews you in either direction in the short term of life. If you are consistently using your best judgment and you have some good information that you have from some reliable sources, in the long run, you will win in life. But do not be fooled by the luck. If you're doing all the right things and you know you're following the right path and you know you had the right frameworks in place and you are getting information from reliable sources of people that you trust, that you have vetted, that know what they're doing and know what they're talking about, and they're giving you the right information, and it's still not producing a result, you must be mentally tough enough. As we talk about at the top of every one of these master classes, be mentally tough enough to stick to your disciplines and stick to believing in yourself, to your confidence, because you know you're following the right frameworks, and eventually in the long run, you are going to be a winner. You may face some short-term L's, but in the long run, you are going to be a winner. And at the same time, do not be fooled by the luck of when you are doing the wrong things and you know you're not doing the right things, you know you're not following through, you know you're not showing up and being disciplined and being confident, or you're not believing in yourself as much, but then you end up getting a success. Don't be fooled into thinking that you can just continue to get away with that, because in the long run, again, you're going to end up a loser over the long run. Again, I'm emphasizing that long run thing because sometimes in life we experience these short run results. Positive results when we did the wrong things, negative results when we did the right things, and we just start to think of the hopelessness of doing all this work, of all this discipline and sticking to the script and following a framework. Don't make that mistake. Now, professionals don't make that mistake. Amateurs make it, but I'm assuming you're either on your way to being a pro or you're already a pro. You know better than to make that mistake. I'm just reminding you. Masterclass number 116, by the way, we talked about winning in the long run of life. I also told you how life is a marathon in masterclass number 360, the many stages of the marathon in masterclass number 1457, and how to finish strong in masterclass number 1044. So make sure you are referencing all three of those, especially if you don't remember everything that I said at each one, which I doubt you do. Point number two, that was point number one. Point number two, today's topic is playing the gamble of life. Be careful of what Annie calls resulting. This is a phrase that I had never heard anyone use, this specific phrase, but as soon as she explained it, I said, that's perfect. I had never heard of it used that way, but it absolutely is true, and people do this all the time in life, and sometimes in a way that works for us and sometimes in a way that doesn't. The resulting means you making decisions that your frameworks and your process was either right or wrong based on the outcome alone. And this is an interesting one to discuss right here. That based on the outcome alone, you decided your process is right or wrong. So for example, if you're a person who does, let's say you have a framework and someone tells you, here's the strategy you should follow. You should do A, B, C, D, E, and F, and in that order. And then you go do it. You follow it exactly as they told you to follow it. And then you end up losing. You end up failing anyway. The result was you failed. So does that mean everything you did was a failure? Does that mean everything that you did was wrong? Does that mean you are a complete and total loser? Does that mean your whole career is a failure because you actually failed in this situation? Now, what Annie is arguing is that you call this resulting. And I suppose in the poker world, that's what they call it. They call it resulting because you say, well, I failed because I ended up having a failing hand based on this situation. Now, something that I have said in the past is that in life, you will be judged by your outcomes. You'll be judged by the results that you produce. But I also added the caveat, you'll be judged by the results you produce in the long run, not just in the short term. So in the short term, you can do all the right things and fail. Doesn't mean that you are a failure. You're a failure only if you quit and you stop trying. But if you keep trying and you keep working and you make sure that you get better and you work on your game, you adjust, you talk to people who vetted sources, trusted sources who may have information that you don't have and can see things that you don't see, you can adjust, and in the long run, you're gonna end up winning. So the resulting can work out for you. So one thing that I do say about life is that people tend to judge. And when people don't know you like that, they can only see whatever they see on the surface about you. They tend to judge you based on what? The results that they can see, or the results that they know about, or the results that they don't see or don't know about. So they're saying, okay, well, you might not be shit because we don't see any results. Or if you have some results, even if you haven't done much, even if you're not even that good, people judge you to be good simply because of that. It's funny, today, as a matter of fact, I was talking to my assistant about this very thing, about how if you have a certain level of brand recognition to your name, it could help you win business. And for example, in the consulting world or the professional speaking world, simply because you're known. You don't even have to be good. And I've told you stories about how I've heard people give speeches who are very well-known people. If I said their names, you'd know exactly who they were, but the speeches weren't that great. And I was like, this person's not even good. But for somebody like myself, at least as of this recording, my name is not that known that I could be mediocre as a speaker and get away with it. I would have to actually be good. So the resulting can be a person who's very well known, or they have a strong brand, or they have a strong, what's the word I'm looking for, reputation in whatever field they happen to be working in. They could get away with being mediocre simply because people are overlooking their results just because they're so happy to have this person involved. And this happens often in life. So when it comes to the resulting, you want to use, actually, I would suggest a hybrid of both of these. So make sure in the long run of life, in the long run, you are following what Annie talks about, which is do not judge yourself or judge your action based on the immediate results of what you get. But in the short term of life, you should understand that you will be judged based on the results that you produce or the results that you do not or have not produced. So on this point of resulting here, when you know you have made the right decision, you know you did the right thing, but it doesn't turn out right, understand that doesn't mean you should quit doing the right thing. For example, if you you get in a car, you put on your seatbelt, you abide by the traffic rules, and you don't touch your phone the whole time you're driving, you're actually paying attention to the road, but then you get in a car accident, does that mean you did anything wrong? No, it was an accident. It wasn't supposed to happen. It was bad luck. But the outcome ended up not being good for you. The result was that you got in a car accident and your car is wrecked and you might be injured, and now you don't have transportation to get to and from work. All right, that's the result. So does that mean you are a failure at driving because of that terrible result? Of course not. Nobody would ever say I'm a failure at driving because I got into a car accident, especially if you know you were not at fault and you didn't do anything wrong in that car accident. You weren't on your phone, you had your seatbelt on, you were abiding by all the traffic rules. Maybe it was just bad luck. Maybe the other driver didn't do anything wrong either. Maybe it was a faulty traffic light. Maybe there was a stop sign missing and somebody didn't stop when they were supposed to stop, but there was no sign there, so they didn't mess up either. So maybe a negative result just is a result of bad luck for all parties involved. But does that mean the next time that you get in a car, if you are resulting, the next time you get in the car, you might say, all right, forget it. I'm not wearing a seatbelt. I'm not following traffic rules, and I'm gonna just be on my phone the whole time because last time I followed all the rules and I still ended up with a bad outcome. So I might as well just stop following the rules. Would you do that? No, you would understand if you are a person with any level of sense, you would understand that that is just a bad strategy for following in life. All right, things didn't work out this day, so I'm gonna just do everything the opposite the next time and maybe things will work out that way. All right, that's a foolish way of thinking. You know you wouldn't do that. So be careful with resulting in the short term. Again, in the long term of life, the results that you end up having in life will be a pretty solid reflection of decisions that you made over the long term. Again, notice I keep emphasizing the time investment that goes into judging your own results. So don't judge your results. Don't judge your actions and decisions based on the results in the short term, but do so in the long term. This is what people do when they're resulting. They judge everything based on the short-term results. And when the result is good, they think, oh, everything I did was perfect. And the result is bad, they think everything I did was terrible. I remember I put a book out on Amazon. I had finished writing the book and I just uploaded it to Amazon so it would be available for sale. Now, if you know me and follow me, you know that most of my books I sell direct to consumer. I don't really try to sell via Amazon. I don't run Amazon ads. I don't send traffic to Amazon at all. Any type of traffic that I send for any product that I'm sending you to a platform and site that I actually own. It's owned by Work On Your Game Incorporated. So when I upload a book and make it available on Amazon, I don't really care how the book performs on Amazon because I'm not trying to sell on Amazon. One reason being, just in case you're wondering, Amazon takes a significant percentage of your revenue when you publish a book through Amazon. So it is self-publishing, quote unquote, but it might as well not be self-publishing because they're taking such a percentage of the money. You might as well be signing with a publishing company. But anyway, that's a different conversation for a different day. But this is what happened. I had a book that I was set to begin selling direct to consumer, as I do through emails and funnels, et cetera, but I also put the books on Amazon. So if a random person happens to Google me and look me up, which does happen, they can stumble across this book and buy it on Amazon. Or maybe somebody's just searching on Amazon for a certain topic and they come across my book because I got a book on that topic and they can buy it. I'm not mad at that person. I'm gonna give the money back. They'll go ahead and buy the book. So what happened once is I put this book on Amazon and a whole bunch of copies of that book sold in the first week. I mean, a lot of copies sold in the first week on Amazon. I have no idea who bought the book because I don't have the customer information. Another reason why I don't focus on selling on Amazon, because you have no idea who your customers are. You can't build a database of selling products on Amazon. Don't know who the customers were, don't know why they bought it, don't know how they found it, don't know what they thought of it after, I don't have any of the information. The only positive I got of the whole thing was that a whole lot of copies of that book sold. It was a great result in part, but I don't know why the result happened. I hadn't even promoted the book. Was it because, now if I was resulting, what would I say? Oh, look, I sold a whole lot of copies of my book. That must mean every time I put a book on Amazon, I'm gonna sell a whole lot of copies in the first week. Any of you who's ever released a book on Amazon, you know that that's not the case. That's not the way that it works. But had I been resulting and just said, oh, well, look, I put a book out and a whole bunch of copies sold, cause effect. You gotta be careful when you gotta be careful that you're not confusing causation and correlation. Correlation means two different things happened at the same time. Causation means something happened because the other thing happened. A correlation could be you put on your seatbelt, abided by traffic rules, didn't touch your phone, you got into a car accident. There's just a correlation between the two. You didn't get in an accident because you were following the traffic rules. You just happened to get in an accident while you were following the traffic rules. Now, if you're on your phone and texting and you get in a car accident and you run into the back of someone because you didn't notice the traffic had stopped, now that could be a causation. Now, this will require you personally to have a high level of personal accountability and personal discipline to be able to discern when two things that happen in your life are based on, is it a relationship of causation or a relationship of correlation? That is another way of looking at this whole resulting concept. So again, if you ever put a book on Amazon, you know that just putting a book on Amazon doesn't mean it's going to sell. There are a million products uploaded to Amazon damn near every day. Probably not a million, but somewhere close to that. So just putting it up there is not going to make it sell. It was random, dumb luck. I have chalked it up to. It was just simple correlation. It was not causation. Even if it was causation, I have no idea what the cause was because it damn sure wasn't just putting the book up there. Anyway, point number 3. Today's topic is playing the gamble of life. Knowing these things that we talked about, that you have to make your best judgment decisions. Often you're making best judgment decisions every single day. You made a best judgment decision to listen to this episode. Now, maybe you've listened to the show many times before and you know it's good and you're already a member of the game group membership. So you're like, all right, well, I'm already in this thing. I've been listening to this guy every day. I might as well listen to him again today. So you had some good reasonings to keep listening to me. And I 100% appreciate you for it. And I respect it and I value it. That's why I keep giving you high quality material every single day. But at the same time, you also placed the bet. The bet that you placed when you turned on this episode was that, okay, Dre was good yesterday and the day before and for the last 3 years straight, maybe he's gonna be good again today. But it was a bet. I mean, I might put out a trashy episode one day, or I'll put out an episode that's just all blank sound. There's no sound on it, it's just blank space. And you're like, what the hell happened? And you never get an explanation for it. Every day you're placing a bet based on your best judgment, then I'm going to put out something good that's going to be worth your time and worth your effort and worth your attention. And actually, you should be placing a bet that is going to be worth 10 times your time, effort, attention, energy, and focus, because that's the promise that I'm making whenever you take in any material by Dre Baldwin, whether you pay for it or you got it for free. All that being said, you got to resolve to keep playing the game. When you place a bet in life, sometimes it's going to work out. Again, if you're following your best judgment in the long run, your bets will work out. You find the right people to follow, the right books to read, the right people to listen to, the right concepts to get involved in, the right endeavors to invest your time, effort, and energy in. In the long run, you will be successful. At the same time, sometimes you're going to fail. Sometimes you'll do everything right and things are just not going to work out. You must resolve to keep playing the game regardless. Just because the outcome is not in your favor in the short term does not mean you quit the game. It makes no sense. So if you're playing basketball and you miss your first 2 shots and your opponent makes their first 2 shots, it's 10 minutes to go, and you're in the first quarter of a 48-minute game, you're not going to just quit the game, right? No, of course you're going to keep playing. All right, I missed the first 2 shots. If you're resulting, you would just quit, right? And this is what a lot of people do in life. They do all the right things, quote unquote, but in the short term, they don't get the result they were after. So they resolve that they're wrong or that it's not going to work, and then they end up quitting and they don't stay in the game. They would have just hung in the game and kept playing and got the right information and worked on their damn game. They would have got great results. But alas, we will never know. Why? Because they quit. Why? Because they were resulting. No, this result didn't work. Must mean that I'm wrong. Must mean that none of this works. I'm giving up. Based on your knowledge of the game, in the long run, you will end up winning if you are making smart, consistently smart decisions. As in the game of poker, as is the game of life. Parallel. Let's recap today's class, which is playing the gamble of life. Again, today's topic was inspired by my recent reading of Annie Duke's book called Thinking in Bets, where she said early on in the book that life is all about making bets. It's all about making decisions based on not 100% of the information, and also usually not guaranteed that you're going to get a certain result just because you take a certain action. I say, you know what? She's right. She's absolutely right. And in life, you have no idea oftentimes what kind of result you're going to get. You may have a good reason to believe you're going to get a certain result, but you don't have a guarantee that you're going to get it. So you got to take some actions not knowing what kind of result you're actually going to get. And that's the bet. All right, that's the gamble that you're making in all of life. So today we're talking about how to play that gamble, which you are consistently doing, but you may not have thought about it that way. And that's where I come in to help clear you up. Point number 1, make best judgment decisions, which is aided by you having a framework for your judgments. Every single day, I'm giving you a new framework from within to work on your game philosophy. So a poker player, I would assume, would reasonably know whatever odds they can know, given the limited amount of information that they have, so that they can make the quote-unquote right bet and are okay even when they lose because they know they played it properly. And the thing about life is the same way. Sometimes we make bad decisions and win, and sometimes we make good decisions and lose. But you can't quit the game just because, or be fooled by the luck of the draw just because something happened a certain way. Point number 2, be careful of resulting. In other words, deciding that you are right or wrong just based on the outcome of something and not based on your process or your strategy or your lack of process or lack of strategy. And yeah, I'm talking about you out there working with no strategy and no process. Now, just because you got in a car accident doesn't mean you did anything wrong. You weren't on your phone, you were abiding by traffic laws, you had your seatbelt on, and just because you didn't get in an accident because when you were driving drunk and texting doesn't mean that you should keep doing it, right? So be careful of resulting. Just because I put a book on Amazon and sold a bunch of copies doesn't mean I just put a book on Amazon every day is going to sell a bunch of copies. That's not going to happen again. Be careful that you are not confusing causation and correlation. Point number 3, knowing these things, resolve to keep playing the game. If this is a game you want to be in, if you know that you have some good information or you're on your way to having it and you got the right mentors and tools around you to help you work on your game and sharpen your game, just because the outcome is not in your favor in the short term does not mean you quit the game. It makes no sense. If you have a baby and your baby is 6 weeks old and it can't walk yet, doesn't mean you're going to put it in a wheelchair and tell it it's not allowed to try. In the long run of life, you will end up winning as long as you have the right strategies, the right frameworks, you're doing the things you're supposed to do, and you're working on your damn game. Work on your game. Dre, all day.